and welcome to this first look exploring session, continuing our look at Captain Thomas Stukeley, which we've got up to scene 9. We're starting with scene 9 today. We're a third of the way through the play. It's a chunky play. There's a lot of action. We've left England. We have travelled over to Ireland, and the play is very much heading in a different direction now, as we've gone from how he made his enough money to join the army to actually doing some army stuff. To continue our journey through the play, finding out how it all functions. Reading Stukeley today is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and I'm in Hull.
Reading Stukeley's lieutenant and the marshal is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
Reading Vernon and Davila is...
Briony, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Hernando is...
Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading, I don't know how this should be pronounced at all. I don't know if it's Og, Oj, or Oji. And the governor's lady is...
Lois, retired academic living in London.
Reading Gainsford and Alva is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm a college composition teacher, and I'm on the west coast of the United States.
Reading Harbert today is... Unsure of who they are.
Sorry, hello. Second, I was looking for the unmute button. I'm also Rachael. I'm from the north of England, but joining at the moment from the north of Italy.
Joining us for the first time, so everyone be nice and welcoming. Reading Buske and Provost is...
Hi, I'm Eric. I am in none of these places.
Reading O'Neill and Philip is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Makener and Botellio is...
Sarah Blake, actor, writer, director based in Germany.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally trying to keep this bunch of reprobates moving forward through this particular play. I wouldn't trust them with your valuables. You'll never know where they'll be. Anyway, going on from scene 9, they're perfectly respectable people. They ignore me. I'm just whittering on. It's going to be one of those sessions. Trust me, it's going to be one of those days. So we're going from scene 9, and we're over in Ireland. In the previous 2 scenes, we've heard either side of the battle lines, as it were. We heard some Irish soldiers discussing what might happen next in terms of their potential assault plans, and we heard the defenders of this particular position on the English side discussing coughing strategies, primarily, I think is where we left off. Anyway, enter Stukeley, his lieutenant. There's an ensign, drum, soldiers, company, etc.
I muse what lord is governor of this town, that comes not forth to welcome Stukeley in.
The town's so long, he cannot hear our drum, and if he did, he knows not whose it is.
Drum, thump thy tapskins hard about the pate, and make the ramheads hear that are within.
And drum sounds, enter Vernon, Gainsford, and soldiers.
Zounds, who is that? Vernon with a partisan? Is he a soldier? Then the enemy's dead.
Is Stukeley come, whom I desire to shun? And must he needs to Ireland follow me? I will not draw that air wherein he breathes. One kingdom shall not hold us if I can.
Is not this lusty Stukeley with his men?
Yes, Captain Gainsford, this is lusty Tom.
These gallants are grown ceremonious. They stand at gaze as if they knew me not, or else they strain a further compliment to see if I will veil my bonnet first. I'll eat a feather ere I move my hat, before I see their crowns uncovered.
Cherish that humour. It becomes your port.
He doth expect we should salute him first.
'Tis fit we should, for he's but new arrived.
You're welcome into Ireland, Captain Stukeley.
Gramercies, Master Vernon, and well met. I did not dream that you professed arms.
It is not my profession, but my pleasure. The governor, being busy in the town, makes me lieutenant governor for the time.
Brave Captain Stukeley, welcome to Dudalk.
Thanks, Captain Gainsford, even with all my heart.
And Stukeley's lieutenant delivers a letter to Vernon.
To me, lieutenant. From whom, I pray ye?
From an old friend.
I'll see what friend it is.
What enemy lies there near about this town?
The rebel, Shane O'Neill, and all his power.
Why do you not beat them home unto their dens?
We have enough ado to keep the town.
To keep the town? Dare they beleaguer it?
Aye, and assault it.
Hang them, savage slaves. Belike they know you dare not issue out. Who is governor here?
That's Captain Harbert, sir.
'Death, I am bewitched. Mine enemy, governor. Well, 'tis no matter, I'll about with him, so soon as e'er I see him by this light. 'Tis marvel he'll endure their proud approach. Harbert is valiant, but the slaves are proud and have no boot to fetch worth following them.
Yes, Captain Stukeley, they have gallant horse. The best in Ireland are of Ulster's breed. They have a prey of Garen's cows and sheep, well worth a brace of £1,000 at least.
Oh, hang cows and sheep, but have amongst their horse. I'll lose this head, but I'll have hobbies from them. What news from England that you read so long?
The largest news concerns yourself.
Wherein?
W.M. Mallory writes, you do not love your wife, you are unkind, you make not much of her.
Writes he that I have not made much of my wife? I'll tell you, Captain, how much I have made. I have made away her portion and her plate, her borders, bracelets, chains, and all her rings, and all the clothes belonging to her back, save one poor gown. And he that can make more of one poor wife, let him take her for me.
Well, had I known you would have made so much, you should not have been troubled with my love.
Come, strike up drum, let's march into the town.
And exit everyone except for Vernon.
Well, go thy ways. A kingdom is too small for his expense that hath no mean at all. Doubtless, if ever man was misbegot, it is this Stukeley, of a boundless mind, undaunted spirit, and uncontrolled spleen, lavish as is the liquid ocean that drops his crowns even as the clouds drop rain. Yet once I loved him better than myself, when, like myself, too prodigal in love, I gave my love to such a prodigal, for which I hate the climate where he lives, as if his breath infected all the air. And therefore, Ireland, now farewell to thee, for though thy soil no venom will sustain, there treads a monster on thy fruitful breast. If any shipping be for Spain or France, abroad will I, and seek some further chance.
Exit Vernon. Again, if anyone knows vaguely where this story is going, the irony meter is running high. It's running hot at that point because, I'm sure running away from Stukeley to go to Spain or France will not backfire for Vernon at all. I'm sure it won't. I'm sure they'll never meet again. Vernon, who previously we have heard so much of him saying, I don't mind Stukeley. No, it's fine. It's okay. It's fine. And of course, bump into each other and they immediately go, oh, bugger, it's him. They're terribly polite to each other. But and then of course Stukeley also gets Captain Herbert's in charge. Oh no, not him. As it's like he's being chased by fate of all these people. Again, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. There was a lot of comment in the chat about Vernon's possible change of direction from character, but maybe we'll address that with those who are waving. Sarah, then Alan.
Yes, I feel a bit cheated. I just wanted, it didn't have to be much, but I just wanted a tiny scene where we had the drama of Vernon going, wait, actually, that guy, he's an utter bastard. I don't know. That was such a great moment that we could have had there.
I think we get that here to a degree. I think it's easy. I don't think he needs to. It's I think if we go into his intentions and what was going on in the previous scenes, of he's lying to himself. None of that was true, and at this moment he bumps into Stukeley again. It just all comes tumbling out. I quite liked it this way, but you are allowed to disagree. Alan, then Eric.
Yeah, Stukeley does seem to have a talent for making enemies.
Mm.
And I think we came up yesterday that a flash heart was one possible model for him, and that's beginning to look even more likely, isn't it?
Mm. And Vernon getting this letter in his face as well, just going, oh, he's not very nice to his wife either. Eric, then Elizabeth, and Rachael.
Yeah, I was just going to say that this scene seems a bit Panto-esque considering the circumstances. And also, we didn't, like, when Harbert and Stukeley had that first interaction about, he's the groom and the sort of what do you call it, best man kind of thing. And yeah, I gave the best man speech and it was terrible, but it was fine. For that, we thought, I seem to remember, we thought like maybe it was just banter, but based on Stukeley's reaction to Harbert, he doesn't seem to think it was just banter.
I think there was definitely a serious threatage going on, in that earlier scene, only stopped by social convention. Whereas here, they're well armed, so no one's going to stop them fighting.
Right.
Elizabeth, then Rachael.
Yeah, last session, I was thinking about how Stukeley is an unlikable character. We were talking about how we could have a season of cads with like the knack to know a knave and other characters who are a bit untoward. But what Stukeley does to his wife, I think her name's is it Nell?
Mm-hmm.
Is absolutely appalling. He has a ton of money as it is. Why does he have to take away everything she has and all her clothes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just getting worse. Rachael.
Just getting worse.
Just on Vernon, perhaps it's not only that Stukeley married the woman with whom he's in love. I mean, he gave up his place to Stukeley, and sort of almost wooed on his behalf. And then, having not been able to marry Nell himself, he comes away to war, only to find that Stukeley, who did get to marry Nell, has also come away to war. Presumably, Vernon would not have come away to war had he married Nell. So it's sort of that contrast that perhaps is the grudge.
Yeah, and again, also the wife is unhappy, and it's all piling in on this scene in from all the directions, leading Vernon to run away once again. I'm sure that will be a great plan. Helen, then Lois.
There was an expedition to France in the 1560s, I think it was, where two of the commanders had to march at either end of the column. Because if they ever saw each other, they fought. And the entire expedition was in danger of being brought to a complete halt by these two people who couldn't stand the sight of each other. So this is not an uncommon problem in the English army.
Lois.
Yeah, sort of dumb question, but have you heard of William Mallory before? I just find it very odd that Vernon actually says who wrote this letter, and that why we need to know the name. Why doesn't he just say a friend of mine back in England tells me? But no, it's William Mallory. The other thing is, of course, this final point about Ireland, for though thy soil no venom will sustain. Does everybody know about that? I mean, there are no snakes.
There's no snakes in Ireland? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, St. Patrick is supposed to have driven them all out.
Not only do we have we not heard of William Mallory, we will never meet him. Spoilers for everyone. Not a character we're ever going to encounter. So, Lynn, did you want to?
Just going to mention quickly. I think you said, Robert, when the Harbert and Vernon were confronting each other at the wedding social convention, kept that pot from boiling over. Also, the presence of women, and not only is the battlefront a kind of different social setting with different expectations, there are no women to kind of pull them back and say, take a deep breath, honey.
Anyway, we should move on because that was quite a short scene. We talked about it at great length, but I think we're all warmed up now. Scene 10. Enter Harbert in a shirt of mail and booted, and his page with him.
Boy, bid the sergeant major shut the gates and see them guarded with a double ward. That done, bid him command the companies to man the walls. Then bid the messenger haste with these letters to the deputy. Come, Captain Stukeley, where's your company? Draw them with speed unto the water port.
Is there for everyone a tankard there?
How do you mean, a tankard?
Sir, in brief, I made a vow, you know it well enough, for your kind speeches to my wife's old dad, Sir Thomas Curtis, that wheresoe'er we met, I would fight with you. Therefore, your tools.
And Stukeley draws.
What were my speeches?
That the old knight had cast away his daughter when he perceived she was bestowed on me.
I spake those words, and thou hast proved them true.
And for those words, Harbert, I'll fight with you.
Rash, harebrained Stukeley, know'st thou what thou dost to quarrel in a town of garrison and draw thy weapon on the governor?
Zounds, have ye logic to defend your skin? Lay by your tricks and take you to your tools. Think ye your governor's title rapier-proof? Come, untrust, put off those coward shifts.
Stukeley, thou know'st I'm a soldier and hate the name of carpet coward to death. I tell thee but the discipline of war.
Got you made hangers then by the law. By law of manhood here I challenge thee. Lay by thy terms and answer like a man.
Thou seest, the public enemy is at hand, and we shall fight about a private brawl.
Nor shall that shift, Tom Harbert, serve thy turn.
Then give me leave but to disarm myself. Thou know'st I scorn to have the odds of any man.
Disarm of what? Of schoolboys' haberdines, such as they cast at points in every street? No, arm thy legs, put splinters in thy boots, casque on thy head and gauntles in thy hands. Would thou wert armed in pistol-proof complete, and nothing bare but even thy very lips. I'll hold my head, I'll hurt thee in the mouth. Lay by thy scarecrow name of governor, and arm thee else unto a finger's breadth.
Braving braggart, since thou dost seek thy death, look to thyself, I'll speed thee if I can.
And they fight, arg.
Sir, your teeth bleeds. This pick tooth is too keen.
And a drum soundeth, and a bagpipe.
Hark, the enemy's charges, we must to the walls. Another time I'll pick your teeth as well.
Even when he can. I said I would hit your mouth.
And they exit. We go straight into scene 11 because an alarum is sounded. Diverse excursions. Stukeley pursues Shane O'Neill and Neil Makener. And after a good, pretty fight, it's important that it's pretty, his lieutenant and ensign rescue Stukeley and chase the Irish out. Then an excursion betwixt Harbert and O'Hanlon, and so a retreat is sounded. And enter Harbert, Gainsford, and some soldiers on the walls.
Are all the gates and posterns closed again?
Everyone, and strong guards at them all.
Who would have thought these naked savages, these Northern Irish, durst have been so bold to have given assault unto a warlike town?
Our sufferance and remissness gives them heart. We make them proud by mewing up ourselves in walled towns, whilst they triumph abroad and revel in the country as they please.
Well, Sergeant Major, we will stir abroad. This sudden sally was performed as men. It cut 300 rebels' throats at least, and did discomfort and disperse them all.
Had we pursued, we had ta'en a lusty prey.
Ye see 'tis night, and time we should retire to guard the town. But hark, what drum is this? Are any of our company without?
'Tis lusty Stukeley, if any be abroad. He is so eager to pursue the foe and flesh his soldiers that are new arrived, that he forgot or heard not the retreat. At which gate shall he enter, Governor?
He shall not enter. Give me all the keys, I'll teach him duty and true discipline.
And enter Stukeley, Stukeley's lieutenant, his ensign, drum, and soldiers. A noise within of driving beasts. So if we can have some driving beast noises. There you go.
Are the gates shut already? Open! How?
Who knocks so boldly?
Ah, who is that above?
Harbert, the governor. Who's that below?
Stukeley, the captain. Knocks to be let in.
Stukeley, the captain, comes not in tonight.
How? Not tonight? I'm sure you do but jest.
I do not use to jest in these affairs.
You do not jest, and I must stay without. I trust you'll let my company come in.
Nor company nor captain comes in, hero, until the morning that the gates be ope.
We humbly thank ye, honourable sir. What if the Irish should make head again and set upon us? Would ye rescue us?
No. Why retired ye not at the retreat, as did myself and all the other troops?
Because I meant not to come empty home, but bring some booty to enrich my men. Besides, in prosecution, we have slain 200 Irish since you left the chase, and brought a prey, 600 cows at least, 40 chief horse, 100 hackney jades. And yet the governor will not let us in.
No, sir, I will not, and will answer it. If all your throats be cut, you are well served to teach ye know the discipline of war. There is a time to fight, a time to cease, a time to watch, a time to take your rest, a time to open and to shut the ports. And at this time, Stukeley, the gates are shut, until a full time they shall not be oped.
Solomon says, with words mild, spare the rod and spoil the child. Wholesome instruction, godly discipline, this is a simple piece of small revenge. But this I vow, who shut me out at night shall never see me enter here by day. Will ye, sir, let the prey be taken in, to fear the Irish rescue it again?
For pity, sir, to lose so good a prey, and greater pity, but to lose one man.
You may let in the prey, but keep them out.
Stay, Sergeant Major. Oh, white-livered lout. Dost thou respect a bullock or a jade more than a man to God's own image made? Harbert, thou'dst not get one cow to thy share, nor a cow's tail, unless as carcass did, I by the tail could draw one from the herd, and cast her at thy head, the horns and all.
Go make your cabin underneath the wall, and so good night.
Farewell. Go pick your teeth.
And exeunt Harbert and Gainsford.
How glad am I, my trunks are yet aboard. Lieutenant, ancient, fellow soldiers all, I would we might not part, but needs we must. Tom Stukeley cannot brook the least disgrace. Tonight I'll bide such venture as you shall. Let's man the bridge, the water flows apace. If the enemy come, he dare not blast the flood. So on this side, we with our prey are safe. How many cows did fall unto my share?
All, if you please. Your valor compassed all.
Shall all the cows be mine? I'll not have one. 30 chief horse, if you will let me have, to ship from hence to seek a better coast.
And gives his purse.
Share that amongst ye. There's £100, and 2 months' pay that's due unto myself I give you frankly. Drink it for my sake.
But, Captain, will you leave this land indeed?
Before the morning sun doth salute, I'll see my hobbies safely sent abroad. Then follow I, that scorn to be controlled of any man that's meaner than a king. Farewell, O'Neill. If Stukeley here had stayed, thy head for treason shouldst thou soonst have paid.
And they exit. So I do like the way that the personal is being mixed in with the plot. You know, it doesn't seem to matter that there's a major military action going on here. Two people are having a private argument, and it's going to get in the way of everything else. And he's got a lot of cows, to dispose of. You know, and it's a good reason to bring him in. Look, I've got all this war booty. We'll split it for the men, and say, well, you can let the cows in, but you're not coming in. Yeah. And of course, we're getting another example of Stukeley being good with his men, you know, and on that level. We're getting bits of toxic masculinity again, of be a man being hurled about a lot, and so the argument between Harbert and Stukeley is having real world consequences, and of course we got a little battle skirmish. We got some sword fighting. The personal and political being nicely intermixed. Thoughts in the room, Lynn?
Yeah, this is a really interesting situation that kind of it exposes or explores the problem of a value system that encourages a certain kind of masculinity. When Vernon says a couple of scenes ago that Stukeley is of a boundless mind, undaunted spirit, and uncontrolled spleen, those aren't necessarily bad things. Those are things that serve the state. If you're just like pumped full of endorphins and hormones and testosterone and stuff, it makes you a good warrior. It makes you fearless and intimidating. So that it sort of serves a conflict-based culture, a war-based culture, to encourage those characteristics in people. But on the other hand, it makes individuals kind of a powder keg that and you end up having kind of a conflict between personal glory and serving the state. And obviously Stukeley is really more sort of self-serving. He's not really patriotic. He's not there for England. He's there for himself. And when his personal reputation, his personal glory is compromised, I'm out of here. So you try to cultivate a warrior temperament, but that kind of tends to backfire in certain situations. So it's a really interesting exploration of that.
The way they're hurling insults at each other, and I do like "Go pick your teeth" as an exit line. I think that's which is following on from the fight earlier about he seems to have got a blow in on the mouth or something, the bleeding gums or something. Lois.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about. I mean, I've seen that line, I'll pick your teeth somewhere else. And I was just curious, is that a common sort of threat during a fight, or does he, I mean, it's pretty difficult to do that. I mean, technically speaking, to pick somebody else's teeth with a sword. So does that really happen on the stage?
I have no gloss on it, so I cannot immediately answer that. I was assuming it was following on from the fight earlier, because there was a line about...
oh, yeah, there was. That was the whole point.
So your teeth bleed.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming at that point he got him in the face with, he managed to get a blow in at Harbert, and he's lost a tooth or something.
Well, I think the point was that Harbert was in pretty well full armor, and he was saying about the only bit of you I can possibly hit is your mouth, so I will. But it still seems to me terribly difficult to do it.
Other thoughts, other queries and questions. I mean, it's full of action. It's everything's still moving along. There doesn't seem again that there's anything that's particularly irrelevant so far. Alan.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether there's actually resonances in here from events which are probably roughly contemporary with the date of the play being written, of the Essex adventure into Ireland. The other bit that struck me was there was a speech there which looked like it was almost lifted straight out of a biblical source. The bit that reminded me very heavily of the to everything there is a season, turn, turn, turn. A time to be born, a time to die, which I think is Old Testament, but I can't exactly place it.
Ecclesiastes.
Right.
And it's the way Stukeley sort of responds with, well, I've got a random proverb I can throw at you. It doesn't feel like he's fencing with the same level of detail as Harbert. I could be misreading that, but the best he's got is spare the rod. that's all he's got in riposte. So yeah, I don't know precisely what's going on there. Rachael.
No, I was just thinking in relation to Lynn's point, it can equally be the other way around, that you have these foreign wars and these colonial enterprises so as to give your ambitious men something to do, so there might be a little bit less trouble at home.
Other thoughts? Otherwise, we will move on, because we still got quite a lot of text to get through, and we're still engaged, even if Stukeley's signing off. For the moment, we're still with the rest of the fight, as it were. Scene 12, enter O'Neill with a halter about his neck, and Neil Makener after him.
Oh, what intends this great O'Neill by this?
Neil Makener, I do not wear this cord as doubting or foredooming such a death. But thou, who art my secretary, knowest that my unkind rebellions merit more. Therefore I bear this hateful cord, in sign of true repentance of my treasons past, and at the deputy's feet on humble knees will sue for pardon from her majesty, whose clemency I grieve to have abused. What sayest thou? Is it not my safest course?
Can I believe that mighty Shane O'Neill is so deject in courage as he seems, or that his dauntless dragon-winged thoughts can humble them at any prince's feet?
What can I do? My forces are dispersed, my kindred slain, my horses made a prey, O'Kane, O'Hanlon, and Magennis killed. If the Queen's power pursue, I am but dead. If I submit, she's merciful. Her deputy will grant me life in her behalf.
Thou canst not tell. The state offended stands, and thou condemned in every subject's eye, and I am censured for my practices. Rather retire thee into Clamgaboy, where Alexander and MacGilliam Bust may join their Scots into thy scattered troops, and reinforce the English with fresh power. If not, at least thy life is safe with them until thy friends may reunite themselves.
I would embrace thy counsel, but I fear the wrongs that I have done unto the Scots sticks in the breast of Alexander Ogue, and he will take occasion of revenge.
Enter Alexander Ogue and Master Gilliam Buske, 2 Scots.
Put it to the proof. For here comes he and Buske. Cast off thy cord. Let them not see thy shame.
Gilliam, the news are true of great O'Neill. Dundalk hath dashed his pride and quelled his power.
Occasion offers us a fair revenge for our dear cousin young MacAngus' death.
Who'll take revenge on weakness that's depressed?
Who let his kinsman's blood unwreaked rest?
Did they not see us, or disdain to see us?
Salute them kindly.
Gentlemen, good day. Alexander MacSurlow and Master Gilliam Buske, fortune hath frowned upon your friend O'Neill. My troops are beaten by the English power. If therefore you will join your Scottish aid with the remainder of my followers, your means may make recovery of my loss, and you shall bind O'Neill to quite your love.
How can a rebel or a traitor hope of good success against his sovereign? A while perhaps he may disturb the state and damn himself, but at the last he falls.
Thought thou hast despised the English churls.
Admit that he did. How can he love O'Neill, but chiefly thee that was the counsellor to cut off young MacAngus, our dear cousin?
Not my advice, but his two saucy braves to great O'Neill did cause his cutting off.
Speak another such word, I'll cut thy throat, thou traitorous rebel Makener.
Mac, Gilliam Buske, upbraid not Neil Makener. I did the deed, and hold it was well done, because he braved me in my own command.
As thou dost us now in our own command, for justifying of so foul a fact, here is a revenge. Traitors, have at ye both.
And they draw and fight. O'Neill flies. Alexander Og pursues him out.
I guess this is me again. Fliest thou, thou traitorous coward, Shane O'Neill? I am too light of foot to let thee escape.
And finally exit after O'Neill.
I'll stop your flight. You shall not follow him.
I meant it, not proud overweening Scot.
Have at thee then, rebellious Irishman.
And they fight, and Makener is slain. Enter Og with O'Neill's head.
I see we are victors both. Mac Gilliam Buske, here is the head of traitorous Shane O'Neill.
And here's his bloody secretary dead.
No force, this head for present will I send to that most noble English deputy that ministers justice as he were a god and guerdons virtue like a liberal king. This grateful present may procure our peace, and so the English fight and our fear may cease.
And may all Irish that were treason deal come to like ender worse than Shane O'Neill.
And they exit, and that effectively ends our Irish escapade with the death of those major figures with some others. So yeah, Stukeley's moved on, Vernon's moved on. We don't know what's happened about Harbert and the principal antagonists are now deceased. So. Yeah, thoughts in the room about this, Elizabeth.
I lost my head.
You did.
But it was
done.
nicely done off stage, and we just brought it on. I thought that's quite nicely done.
Yeah. I think there's obviously a, someone in the company. They've made sure they've got their head, and they're probably the person who always has to die in plays, because you can only afford one decent executed head. Depends how good the head is. Sarah, then Alan.
You may have just answered my question for me, but whilst I really enjoyed that scene, I'm not entirely sure what the point of it was, because it's not like the Scotsman, are kind of characters that have been built up. They've literally just appeared. It's not. I mean, the Irish guys have literally only appeared in one previous scene. The play is following Stukeley. Stukeley's gone. This is kind of tying up the loose ends. I mean, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was action packed, but it's like what was that for?
Well, there's another reason, or a structural reason, which is Stukeley left at the end of the last scene and is going to enter the beginning of the next scene. So
right.
it could also be described as padding, so that he can go off and come back on again. But yeah, also tidying up and things, and maybe they'd hired an accent coach for this season, and they really wanted to, get them all in there, as many into one play as you could. Alan.
Yeah, I think what it is that the Irish dialect specialists have got another booking at a theatre down the road.
Yeah.
So, fine, we've done our number, now we're off.
Lois.
Well, another possibility is that this may be what happened. I mean, they may be stuck with history, and maybe some Scots did actually kill the Irish chieftain. I mean, I wouldn't know. We're terribly ignorant of Irish history.
There's a lengthy footnote that I've been looking at. It's not quite what happens here, shall we say? It's much more lengthy and confused and different. Broadly an outline, it's sort of this, but no, it's a lot more a lot more complicated. I think, this is the Précy short, we need to wrap it up in one scene version of history. So it's sort of a combination of that, I think. Rachael and then Helen.
Why did they cut off his head, and why were they declaring him a traitor? I'm confused.
They've got some backstory stuff that we don't need to worry about with the Scots. So that's reasons which are briefly lampshaded. Head chopping off because Helen.
The fundamentally, up to the beginning of James's reign, the aim was to keep the Scots out of Ireland. After James became king, the aim was to get the Scots into Ireland. And if you can remember that, then pretty much it.
Apparently, O'Neill was murdered at a feast, it's perhaps quite different to the beef that we end up with here. But they're dead now, so that's fine. We can move on. Any other thoughts? Okay. The question actually that arose much earlier, which I just briefly, when talking about the Irish, they're talking about these naked savages. I mean, there's this question of how they're physically supposed to be portrayed as well, and whether that's just the English being jingoistic and unpleasant, or whether that's actually part of their representation in the nature of this text. Or whether that's just a descriptor that gets quietly dropped in production is an interesting question. Any other thoughts on the story so far before we dive into scene 13? Lucky for some. Okay, so enter Hernando, who is the governor of somewhere or other, with Stukeley, brought in with bills and halberts.
Had I known thus much, Governor, I would have burnt my ships in the haven before thy face, and have fed haddocks with my horses.
Is thou and all thou hast at my dispose, and dost deny me upon courtesy what I may take, whether thou wilt or no? Stukeley, if thou be called so, I'll make thee know a governor of Cadiz.
Governor, will nothing but 5 of my horses serve your turn? Sirrah, thou gett'st not one of them, and a hare would save thy life if I had as many horses as there be stones in the island. Thou shouldst not have one of them.
No, Stukeley, too, it had been thy duty to have offered them, and glad that I would grace thee to accept them. What is he that dares thrust into this harbour and not make tender of his goods to me?
Why, then, no governor. Here is one that dares thrust into this harbour that will not make thee tender of a mite, nor cares not a hair how thou dost take it. I will not give one of my hobbies for thy government.
I will be answerable to thee for thy horses.
Dost thou keep a toll booth? Zounds, dost thou make a horse courser of me?
Nay, sirrah, then I'll lay you by the heels, and I will have them, every horse of them.
Thou gett'st not so much as a nail of one of them. No, if thou wouldst draw it with thy teeth. If you do, I'll clench it with your scalp.
And enter the governor's lady.
Call me the Provost hither presently.
And one goes for the Provost.
Sirrah, is this the English gentleman which brought the horses?
Oh, do we have a servant?
I can't get the servants these days. Where is he?
Rachael, step in to be a servant, will you?
Madam, it is he. This is the man.
How do you call him?
His servants say his name is Signor Stukeley.
No, by my troth, and as I am a lady, I never saw a fairer gentleman. I would it lay in my power to do him good.
And enter the Provost.
Sirrah, as I have seized your ships and horses, so I commit your body unto prison until his highness' pleasure shall be known. Provost, lay irons upon him and take him to your charge.
Well, for all this, might I have my will, in faith his entertainment should be better.
You muddy slave. You may by your power do a little, but I'll call you to a reckoning for this gear. And sirrah, see a horse be not lacking. If he be, I'll make thee on thy bare feet lead him in a halter after me to the furthest part of Spain.
Go to, thou art a base pirate.
Sirrah muchacho, you that have eaten a horse and his tail hangs out of your mouth, you lie. All that thou canst do shall not get a horse. If St. Jacques, your saint, want a horse, he should not get one of them. He should go afoot else all the days of his life. By this flesh and blood, I'll make thee repent it.
Away with him!
And exit Stukeley with Provost.
Yet, good my lord, consider what you do. Surely the confidence of this man's spirit shows that his blood is either great or noble, or that his fortune's at his own command.
I hold him rather to be some desperate pirate that thinks to domineer upon the land, as he is used among his mates at sea.
Besides, it's less disgrace to bear his braves here, where your power is absolute and free, and where he wholly stands at your dispose, than in a place indifferent to either, and where you both should stand in equal terms.
If I did prize his honour with mine own, then, wife, perhaps I might allow your reason.
Besides, perhaps they may be for a present, which now his heat restrains him to disclose, which, should they be to any prince of Spain, how ill may it be taken at your hands?
This his committing gives some cause to doubt. I care not, were they sent unto the devil, where the commission of my government gives me as much as I demand of him. Tomorrow I'll unto the court myself. Today I have some business in the isle, and 'twill be evening ere I do return.
And exit Governor. Enter Provost again.
Provost?
Madam?
Where have you bestowed this gentleman?
Madam, he's here within the palace yet, ready to go unto the Marshalsea. He had been gone, but that upon some business I come to know his honour's pleasure in, and he's gone.
But, Provost, since your prisoner is not departed, I pray thee bring him hither. I'll see if by persuasion I can win him to yield and to submit unto my lord.
Madam, I will.
He fetcheth him in.
I thank you. Give us leave a little.
And yes, Provost is definitely exited by this point.
Fair gentlemen, but that it is too late to call back yesterday. I would have wished that you had dealt more kindly with my lord. Sir, it should seem you have been unacquainted with the hot bloods and temper of our clime, or with the Spaniard's noble disposition, whereas your kind submission might have wrought what your high spleen and courage cannot do.
Fair courteous lady, had your beauteous self asked anything, a noble English heart had made you mistress of your own desires. But to be threatened and subjected by him? Zounds, first I'll fray him out of his government and vex his very marrow in his bones. thinks he? Because I am fallen into his hands, I fear his power? Splut, I'll stare his eyes out first. He looks not on the sun. I dare not brave. I am Stukeley. Let him know my name.
Brave gentleman. Yet I could have wished I had but been of counsel with your thoughts, but without breach or touch of modesty, even for the love I bear unto your country, mine honour kept unstained, which I protest I prize beyond the thing I hold the dearest. Command whatever lieth in my power to comfort you in this extremity.
Madam, how much your noble Spanish courtesy hath power in me, a faithful English heart shall manifest, and I will be the champion of your honour, wherever I become in Christendom.
Yes, no, a lady of Spain can be as kind as any English woman of them all. What is it, Signor, I can help you with?
My liberty's the thing I most desire.
That presently I cannot warrant you, but I will labour for it to my lord with all the means my wits can all devise.
Then this, madam, might I possibly obtain, but to work some means for me by your best endeavours, that I may have but one of my horses that I will choose, and but respite for one day to ride a little way upon some earnest business. Now, in the absence of your husband, and as I am a soldier and a gentleman, and by the honours of my nation, I will come back by the prefixed hour.
Sir, should I devise some means for the accomplishment of your desire, and that it should come to my husband's ear before your return, I should hearken for your coming back. Besides, if by this mean you should seek to escape, greater treasons might be objected than I hope you are guilty of, and what danger both my life and honour might incur, I imagine you are not ignorant.
Madam, if all your wits can but hide it from your husband, if he should come before I return, for the other I dare pawn my soul to you, that I will hold my word.
Go to, mine honour and life is your bail. Let your return be 6 o'clock in the evening. I will once trust an Englishman on his word.
And exit. Okay, show of hands. Who thinks that Stukeley will return at 6 o'clock?
I think you.
Oh, Lois believes in the word of Stukeley. Rachael, not sure. Anyone who believes that he's going to get on that horse and head for the hills?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong here?
Yes, the moment he starts saying, "As I am a soldier and a gentleman," I'm going, no. So yeah, he's got away with the ladies, hasn't he? And just for those who were here yesterday, did we get much in the way of zoonsing from Stukeley yesterday? I don't recall zoons being a thing he said. Seems to have picked it up in Ireland. Sarah?
I think I said it once.
Once. He's saying it a lot now. It seems to be more of a vocal tick, along with presumably slapping his thigh and being occasionally slightly racist. So yeah, it seems to be something that's just sort of crept in there. Yeah, thoughts on the room about this change of direction as we're in Cadiz. Rachael, then Eric.
The switch we have at the end of this scene, and I don't know if it's the copy that we're reading from or if it's in the original manuscript that this is coming from, but the switch from verse that we have to the end of this scene being in prose, the sort of dropping of formalities between the two of them, and then also how not neoclassical, but like there's something about this scene that reminds me of like Jason and Medea, and the way that he's so handsome that he wins her to his side, and maybe something of Odysseus and Circe or something, the woman that he has an affair with while he's away from home.
Yes, just a note on the text. This is one that Dan, I'm sure, would enjoy. There's a lot of the text that might be in prose and might be in verse, and never the twain is 100% certain which it's supposed to be. So it might be a deliberate thing. It might just be the printer was a bit rubbish. There are lots of textual issues with this play that we don't really go into in these kinds of sessions, but it's a good thing to flag up in the way that this particular text has been laid out this way, but you might find compromises to rework it in another way. Eric?
Well, yeah, it just seems like, oh, look how dashing Stukeley is, and it feels a bit like, as we've been saying, Lord Flashheart, but kind of not. I don't know, because he like Flashheart doesn't always seem quite as malicious, I think, in his intent. In some, I don't know, maybe I've not watched that episode in a while, but yeah. Whereas Stukeley is just like, yes, I will completely come back at the appointed hour to be hanged, or whatever.
And he's really offended about the idea that this governor's going to take his horses. He says, "You're not having any of my horses. They're my horses," And when he goes, "Dost thou keep a toll booth?" He really loses his temper at the beginning of the scene. Other thoughts? We will return to this location. There will be more. I don't believe any of this has any connection with history, by the way. Just saying this particular bit. We are about to go into something that I think we can assume is historical in a moment, but I don't think there's any meaningful source for this. Helen?
Yeah. I missed yesterday, so I missed what was no doubt a very excellent introduction. Do we have any date at all for this play?
Yes, the December 1596 is the date. I actually should double check that. I've got that on a spreadsheet. I will go to the Horse's Mouth and have a look in some books while we chat.
Because, Cadiz had or has had or will have, depending on what the date is, a fairly major part. The Cadiz expedition of 96 was big and full of the Earl of Essex. So, we've got all sorts of resonances here. What slightly worries me is that Cadiz seems to have been an island in early modern geography. I'm pretty sure it isn't.
No.
Alan?
I think we've got the usual issue of early modern dating, early modern geography. We know of old, don't trust any of it. It's all foreign, and therefore they're just subjects to be mocked in the English theatre.
Yeah. We've got a date of December 1596. Admiral's Men at the Rose. We've got some very firm auspices for this one. Rachael, you're waving.
What is the Cadiz expedition?
Anyone want to leap in on that one? I'm
all
not...
right. Yeah, the Earl of Essex and Lord Admiral Howard took an English fleet, a substantial English fleet, and sacked the town of Cadiz, and sunk quite a lot of Spanish ships. The intention was to find the next Spanish armada and sink it before it could set off. In fact, it was somewhere else at the time. The litigation lasted for about 6 years after it came back about who'd stolen whose private pillage. Essex wanted to set himself up as King of Cadiz, but Howard had other ideas. It was a mess, but a successful mess in many ways.
Okay, from that we're going to dive into scene 14, and we're going to the court of Philip II, in some vague sense. So enter King Philip, with him Alva and Sancto Davila, and with them the Portuguese ambassador Botellio. I think that's how it all fits together.
Speak, reverend intercessor for the state, of young Sebastian, King of Portugal. What craves our dear entire beloved cousin, wherein we may befriend his majesty?
First, sacred king, the sovereign of my faith and Portugal's undoubted supreme head, doth kindly greet your highness in love. Next, on behalf of your respective care and bond of natural amity, which he mistrusts not, but combines ye both as being kinsmen, he entreats this boon. That whereas lately from the King of Fez, Muley Mahomet to my royal master hath honourable ambassage been sent, and great entreaty made to crave his aid, against Molluco, brother to that king, who now intrudes upon Mahomet's bounds, and building on his privilege of age and inequality of matchless strength, strives to deprive him of his diadem. It would seem good unto your princely self, as in the like we shall be ready still as Spain's entreaty, to assist my lord with some such necessary strength of war, as in this action may conclude a peace to Portugal's great profit and renown.
Are then Molluco and his brother king at civil mutiny among themselves?
They are, my lord. And many woeful days the afflicted Barbary hath suffered spoil and been a prey unto her natural subjects.
Oh, the right is in Molluco. Wherefore then would Prince Sebastian aid the other part? Beside, Mahomet is an infidel, from whose associate fellowship in this and all things else we Christians must refrain.
Grace but his reasons with your mild conceit, whereon he grounds his lawful resolution, and, mighty Philip, you shall quickly find this his intent to be most honourable, and not for regard of any supreme claim the stern Mahomet lays unto the crown, nor any justice that in his behalf may be presumed upon, doth stout Sebastian list to this motion, but for honour's sake, for Portugal's chief good, and to advance the Christian true religion through those parts, is he inclined to undertake this war.
How can that be? Acquaint us with your meaning.
This, worthy king, 'tis not unknown to you that divers towns and cities situate within the borders of rich Barbary, which King Emmanuel conquered by his blood, and left appropriate still to be enjoyed of such as should be kings of Portugal, are, but by this prevention, like to fall and be confiscate to the Moor again. But by an army thither brought in time, not only these great cities shall be kept, but raising this Mahomet to the crown, and quite distinguishing his brother's claim when we have planted him. And that by us the country is subdued and kept in awe, we shall not only still retain our own, but for Mahomet to subscribe to us, and either he and his to change their faith and worship that eternal God we do, or, disannulling, be deprived of life, and so assume the government ourselves.
I'm so sorry, guys, my script has just disappeared off the page.
Well, I think at this point we can pause anyway, because it does seem like Botellio has just been sort of going, "Hi, just fill you in on some of the more complicated bits of political history that's going on at the moment." Everyone following this very clearly, I'm sure. Anyone would like to do a little recap of what Sarah's just been reading? Rachael, then Helen.
Is this the king that dies in the Battle of Alcazar? Does Botellio die in the Battle of Alcazar?
Some people will die in the Battle of Alcazar. I wouldn't want to spoil you with precise designations of who's going to die tomorrow, but people will definitely die in the Battle of Alcazar. It's definitely coming. It's coming. Helen.
As I read this, the Portuguese plan is to support one side in the civil war. And when both sides in the country have carefully killed off all their best fighters, then Portugal and possibly Spain, if they assist, can step in and take over.
Lois,
right?
Who's currently muted.
And they're expecting that they will somehow manage to convert the population to Christianity. And if they don't do that, they'll use their failure to convert as a pretext, I guess, to depose them and take over anyway.
Yes, I'm sure that will be a successful enterprise.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, are you up to speed?
It just had a massive screen which just said the life and times of Captain Thomas Stukeley, and I was like, oh, brilliant. So I've got the script back.
Excellent. Right. Well, in that case, let us resume, and let's hopefully that things will become clearer as we read on. So Botellio has completed a lengthy speech, and Philip takes up the cudgels.
This tastes of honour and of policy. Might it with like success be brought to pass?
With your assistance, there's no doubt, my lord. But what we have imagined shall ere long be truly and effectually performed.
Aye, but Molocco's army doth consist of dreadless Turks and warlike Saracens, is much to be suspected in this case.
What can they do? Though great their number be, when for their single force we come in strength of Spain, of Portugal, and Barbary.
Your reasons have prevailed. What power is it our loving cousin doth request of us?
Of horse and foot, indifferently. Commixed only 10,000 will supply his want.
Botellio, so I take it you are called. Give place a while, till with our faithful lords we have advised us better on the cause, and then you shall have answer presently.
And exit Botellio.
Now you supporters of our royal state, Alva and Davila, briefly show what your opinion is touching the suit of neighbouring Portugal's fame-thirsty king.
That he attempts an enterprise, my liege, will sooner break his neck than make him great.
That hereby, if occasion be laid hold on, that Spain and Portugal shall be unite, and you the sovereign ruler of them both.
Express thy meaning, Davila, in that point.
It shall not need I stand on circumstance. Your Highness knows, Sebastian, once removed, the way is open solely for yourself, either by force or by corrupting gold, to step into the throne. Now, for a mean to cut him off, what better way than this? To soothe this purpose and to draw him on with expectation of a strong supply. But when he is set forth upon his way and left his country, that without reproach and scandal to his name he cannot retire, then to proclaim on pain of speedy death, that not a Spaniard seemed to join with him. So, landed once in desert Barbary, his weakened soldiers and himself at once shall fall before Molocco's conquering sword.
Mean space, to colour your intent the better, muster your men as if you meant to aid him. But with these men, as soon as he is gone, approach the borders of fair Portugal, and if it chance Sebastian do survive the pagan sword, yet in his absence we may enter his dominions, sack his towns, and take possession of the realm by force.
Withal, dispatch ambassadors to Rome, and forthwith to entreat the Pope's advice, who in no wise beforehand, we are sure, will license any Christian potentate to traffic or converse with heathen kings. And so his prohibition may excuse and serve to cloak your breach of promise with, when 'tis perceived you do not aid Sebastian.
You counsel well and fitting our desire, that many years have wished, that Portugal and fruitful Castile, being one continent, had likewise been the subject of one sceptre. Call forth the ambassador. As you have said, so will we dally with our cousin's suit.
And enter Botellio.
My lord Botellio, we have weighed the effect of your embassage, and in nature bound, beside the affection of near neighbourhood, to do our kinsman and your noble king all offices of kindness that we can. Tell him from us we only not commend his haughty mind in this attempt of his, but his discreet and politic proceeding, and will therein, to further his intent, aid him with twice 5,000 armed soldiers and 50 galleys, all well furnished, which on the 4th of June, near to the Straits of Gibraltar, in a haven there, called El Porto de Santa Maria, shall wait his coming on toward Africa. So wishing him a happy, prosperous brother in all we may, we live to do him good.
Thanks to the high and mighty King of Spain.
Lord Saint Davila, bring him on his way.
And exit Botellio and Davila.
And Alva now, what think ye of this plot? Is it not too severe, ambitious, and more deceitful than becomes a king?
A kingdom's thirst hath to dispense, my lord, with any rigour or extremity, and that which in mean men would seem a fault, as leading to ambition or such like, is in a king but well beseeming him. Upon my life, your grace has well resolved, and howsoever vulgar wits repine, yet regal majesty must have its course.
And enter Davila.
Danilo, what news? You are so soon returned.
A gallant Englishman, my gracious lord, haughty in look and hasty in his business, but now arrived at the court gate, earnestly craves admittance to your presence.
An English gentleman? Let him draw near.
Enter Stukeley, presumably having just got off his horse.
Right high and mighty, if to kings installed and sacredly anointed it belonged to minister true justice and relieve the poor oppressed stranger, then from thee, renowned Philip, that by birth of place upholds the sceptre of a royal king, Stukeley, a soldier and a gentleman, but neither like a soldier nor a man, of some of thy unworthy subjects handled, doth challenge justice at thy sacred hands and succour against oppression offered him.
Oppression offered, and by some of ours?
Yes, royal Philip, and in some respect the vile abuse doth touch your majesty.
Stand up and tell the manner of thy grief, and on our royal name, we promise thee the offender shall be sharply punished.
A lusty man, believe me, of his limbs.
Aye, and as knightly in his talk beside.
Thus, kingly Philip, having served of late under my prince's army in the field against the rude rebellious Irish, where upon desire to travel, and especially upon affection that I had to see your princely court so honourably famed, as also to make tender of my love and duteous service to your majesty, shipping myself with other private goods, which I had purchased by my dint of sword, I came to Cadiz, where landed with my prey in number 30 hobbies for the shore. One Don Hernando, there your governor, attacheth both my ship and all therein. And though I tell them that the hobbies were a present for your grace, and for that cause I thither brought them, yet the uncivil lord, because he might not have one horse of them to his own use, clapped irons on my heels, and in a dungeon like a grippled churl, I think his purpose was to famish me, but that by strange adventure and good hap I escaped his tyrant fingers, hoping here, if I might once get opportunity to let your highness understand thereof, I should find remedy against his wrong.
Have we such base ignoble substitutes that dare so heinously oppress a stranger, and such a one as came to offer us the bounty of his heart in friendly gifts? Let there be sent a messenger forthwith to bring the wretch to answer his abuse. And Stukeley, welcome to King Philip's court. Repose thyself. Thou shalt have right with me, and favour too again thine enemy.
I thank your majesty, but must entreat you would vouchsafe to pardon me in this. I needs must back again to Cadiz, my lord.
Be not afraid, thy goods shall be purloined. There's not a mite, but he shall bring it forth, or of his own purse make it good to thee.
It is not that, and please your majesty, but I have passed my word, I will return. And Stukeley holds his promise as religion.
Well then, my lord of Alva, give in charge some of our pensioners attend on him, to bring Hernando hither, safely guarded.
It shall be done, my lord.
And off Stukeley. I really want to know where Philip II keeps his court, because if it's in Madrid, then that horse is dead. And there's no way he's getting back in time for 6. I mean, so it's all sorts of... I mean, the courts don't have to be tied to specific places, so maybe it's travelling, and maybe it's moved closer to the Portuguese border for diplomatic talks or something. But this geography is confusing the hell out of me. But yeah, one hell of a horse ride. G up. There. So yeah, we have the politics. And that initial stuff with Botellio, which was quite opaque, becomes much clearer when they say, so what do you think of the ambassador's plan? Maybe we should just double-cross him. That's a much better plan, and that plan is really clear. So actually, yes, we get a bit bogged down in plot of, international politics, which, we haven't really been engaging with in the rest of the play. We do get through to the other side reasonably effectively, and then Stukeley turns up for no readily apparent reason. So there. Thoughts on the room, Lynn?
Evidently, Stukeley's going to go back to Cadiz to make good on his promise to the governor's wife. That was surprised me.
Who saw that coming?
Lois.
Lois knows everything.
No, it fits with his character. He has to do the most surprising thing, and he has a big thing about honor. I mean, certainly not honors related to his wife and his use of her possessions, but then that was standard behavior for young gentlemen. But he makes a promise to the governor's lady. This is a romantic situation, so he's got to rise to it.
Yeah. Or you can't complain to Philip too much about his thing, if he doesn't, make it all fit together in his nice, neat narrative. So, I'm still going to stick with my cynical side to him. But yes, you're almost certainly right on that. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've maybe got an explanation for why he didn't want to take the cows in Ireland. He's already got a lifetime supply of bullshit.
Yeah, he's also, cows are difficult to transport. I mean, horses, that's hard enough as it is. Don't like going on the water that much. So yeah. Other thoughts? We only have one more scene to go this session. As we sort of do the lower slopes of the end game. Remember, this is the life and death of Captain Thomas Stukeley. So do prepare yourselves emotionally for his demise.
Can't come too soon.
Some people are not fans. Okay, we will move on to scene 15 then. Enter Provost and the governor's lady.
Madam, what shall we do? The time draws on. The English captain promised to return, yet he comes not. If my lord should miss him, my life were lost, your credit thereby cracked.
Content thee, Provost. Such apparent signs of manly disposition shine in him, of valor, gentry, and what not beside, as I presume if he remain alive, he will return at his prefixed hour. As yet the respite that was granted him is not expired. I do not doubt ere then, but he will rid us of the fear we are in.
Had we but, madam, known which way he went, or had himself but told us of the place to which he purposed to make his journey, there had been yet some comfort and some hope. But ignorant of both, how can we choose but be suspicious and almost despair?
Oh, thou talk'st absurdly. Had we known the place, the cause which made him, and which way he went, what thank were that to us to let him go where we were sure to find him out again? Or how should trial of his faith appear in matters of no weight or jeopardy? Now, being so that of our own accord, without the least respect but to his promise, he was dismissed, and that he clearly sees 'tis at his charge to stay on his return, and yet will unconstrained keep his vow, approves him truly loyal, us truly loving.
If I be called in question for his absence, madam, I must rely upon your wit.
And enter Hernando, the governor.
Be that thy refuge, here Hernando comes.
Provost, I bethought me at the last how to dispose of Stukeley and his good. Part of his horses I will give the king, and part I will bestow upon my friends. To these conditions, if he condescend, I am content he shall have liberty, and he, his ship, and men be so discharged. But otherwise I'll cause his ship to be sunk, and he and his as pirates suffer death. Therefore, go fetch him to me presently. I may be certain if he'll yield or no.
Ah, madam, I'm stricken dumb and dead. What shall I answer to my lord's demand?
Be not so fearful, lest thy guilty looks argue suspicion of some treachery.
Dost hear me, Provost? Fetch me Stukeley forth.
Make it as though thou understands him not.
Madam, what whispers he into your ear that he neglects to do as I command?
He tells me, my lord, that the English captain is grown submiss and very tractable, and of himself is ready to resign as much as you require to have of him, and that even now, after his counsel heard how best he might crave pardon for his pride, his stiff resistance, and audacious words, whereto he answered that his readiest way was by petition to solicit him. And so he tells me that he left him studying how to intend some quaint, conceited method might draw remorse from your displeased mind.
Is he, Provost, become flexible?
Exceeding mild and penitent, my lord.
I thought his stomach would come down at last. Go bid him save a labour with his pen, and tell him we are here. Let it suffice if with his tongue he do recant his fault.
Nay, let him write, for writing will remain, when words but spoken may be soon forgot. It makes the better on your side, my lord, that underneath his hand it shall appear, by his consent, and not by your constraint, he made surrender of his prize to you. So shall the world, what after chance to fall, clear your extortion and abuse.
Cannot be, but he has done ere this. Prithee see, much matter in few lines is quickly caught by one of meaner wit.
It were not good to trouble him so soon.
I will not subject my desire herein, and wait upon his leisure. Look, I say.
Without some cunning shift we are undone.
Why starest thou, Provost, when I bid thee go?
Withdraw thyself to satisfy his mind.
Help my excuse, madam, if I fail.
Let me alone. My lord, how glad am I there shall be now atonement of this strife, and that this English gentleman is pleased to yield obedience, and yourself as willing to be appeased at his humility.
I tell thee, wife, he stopped in happy time, or all submission else had come too late.
And re-enter Provost.
Where is he, Provost? Will he come to us?
Is he not yet returned?
Madam, not yet.
Oh, then do I fear our plot will be discovered.
Why speakest not, man? Where is thy prisoner?
He hath not yet, my lord, set down his mind. He doth entreat your honour stay a while, and he will then have made an end of all.
I'll wait no longer on his mastership. Give me the key. I'll fetch him forth myself.
Oh, what will you do? You fetch him forth yourself? I would not that for all the wealth in Spain. Will you so much annoy your vital powers as to oppress them with the prison stink? Oh, you shall not, if you love me, come so near. The place is mortally infected lately, and as the provost tells me, divers die of strange diseases, and no longer since than the last morning, 2 were buried thence. Ask him, my lord, if this be true or no.
It is most certain there are many sick, and therefore, good my lord, refrain the place.
Unless thou bring him straightway to my sight, nor danger nor entreaty shall prevail, but I will enter at the door myself.
See once again, it may be he is come. Meanspace, I'll hold him with some other talk.
Do, gentle madam.
If he be not come, protract the time as much as in thee lies.
I'll tarry long enough, ne'er doubt of that.
Sirrah, before thou go, bring him forth, or look to lie in irons as he doth.
And exit Provost.
I have not seen you oftentimes, my lord, so out of patience and so far from quiet. You were not wont in things as great as this, but that you'd be persuaded by my words.
I cannot tell how I may think of you, your busying of yourself so much herein, and speaking for this Englishman so oft, make me suspect more than I thought to do.
Suspect? As how? That I do favor him? Or is it your meaning that I go about to set him free? Your best excuse me flatly that I've taught him here to break the prison. Is this the recompense for my goodwill? Have I this thank for being provident and careful for your health? Go where you will. Suspect thyself and me. Cut short thy days, do anything that may disparage you. Hereafter I will learn to hold my tongue.
Oh, now, my love, what? Angry for a word?
Have I not reason when you grow suspicious of me that am yourself your bosom friend?
I prithee be content. I meant no harm. I know thou wouldst not prejudice my state to be the empress of all Asia here.
And enter the Provost and Stukeley in gyves.
Now he comes.
Then do I cast off fear, and whilst I live hereafter will I trust an Englishman the better for his sake.
Where's the submission that ye told me of? All this repentance for his pride?
What craves the unjust governor of Cadiz?
Obstinate captain, thou that thou lend thy knee and make surrender of what I require, or thou and thine, like pirates, all shall die.
I cannot hear. I would you would speak louder.
Dost thou deride me?
Not deride you, sir, but for my hobbies I'll not spare a hair. So much of their tails to pick your teeth.
The sweet captain, speak him fair at my entreaty.
Madam, I owe my life to do you service, but for his threats I do not care a rush.
How have I been deluded by your words? He scorns me still. Knock off his iron gyves and let an executioner be sent for. I'll not stir till I see him dead.
Hernando, I do dare the worst thou canst.
Oh, do not provoke him so.
Oh, content you, madam. Stukeley bears a mind that will not melt at any tyrant's words.
And enter the Marshal Valdez.
Call'st thou me tyrant too? It is enough in sooth. I'll try your patience for that word.
Hernando, in His Majesty's name, I charge you, presently prepare yourself to make appearance at the court this night, and bring this gentleman your prisoner here, together with such horses as you have of his in your possession. Fail you not, as you will answer it unto your peril.
How knows the king he was my prisoner?
What answer make ye? Will you go with me?
With all my heart. This Stukeley is some devil, and with his sorcery hath incensed the king.
Hernando, if your lordship want a horse, one of my hobbies is at your command.
He flatters me, but I must dissemble with him. Brave Signor Stukeley, whatsoe'er hath passed betwixt yourself and me, conceive the best. It was but trial of your fortitude, and now I see you are no less indeed than what you seem, a valiant gentleman. I do embrace you with a brother's love. Come, let's go. I'll do you any grace. Unto the king my honour extends unto.
When I do need it, I will thank ye, sir. But madam, wherein may I quittance you, whose kindness is the cause of all my good?
I crave not more for anything I do, but that you virtuously report of me, and in remembrance of me, wear this scarf.
This on mine arm, yourself within my heart, doth Stukeley vow perpetually to bear.
And exit Stukeley, horses undivided. Yes, so it's a sort of inverted bedroom farce in the sense of rather than trying to keep people out of the room where the random people are hidden, you're desperately trying to stop the king going in the room when nobody is. Yeah, so there's something very farcical about that whole situation, this sort of ticking clock. Is he here yet? No, he isn't. Oh, God. Oh, no, now that the governor's here, he wants him. Bring him in. And, oh, no, we wouldn't dare to let you go and look for him yourself. You have servants for this, my lord. Stuff. So, yeah, it's an interesting sequence that we've had here with these three scenes. Now that we've moved to moved away from even further away from England, how's it landing for people? Thoughts on the room, Sarah?
I said yesterday that I felt the first Irish scene was really fascinating in the way it changed the tone of the play completely. And I feel that the same thing's happened again. Now, it's like with every shift in location, geographical location, we get a shift in the actual tone of the play. And it's I mean, it's not like we haven't had humour before, because we have. And even the Irish section had a lot of humour in it. But yeah, we seem to have suddenly shifted tone again, and it's become a bit more farcical, and it's kind of hilarious, but also there's all the plotting and the intrigue. And I'm just really impressed with the way the play is doing that, because even though each section has its own tone and its own atmosphere and is doing slightly different things in each sections, all of those things are being done really well, it seems to me.
And and the with the exception of that scene, we closed the Irish sequence on. All of these scenes have Stukeley in. He manages to ride in at the end of the scene. So we're holding on to our central narrative focus that is Stukeley, even though the narrative is throwing us all over the place in terms of going from one conflict to another, as this sort of soldier of fortune throws his lot in, or his horses in with different people. Lynn.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Sarah has said. That I still don't like Stukeley very much, but I really couldn't help but be kind of charmed by this whole sequence. I think the plotting, the structure is so skillfully put together that he basically Stukeley kind of overdoes the macho shithead thing with the governor of Cadiz, but manages to charm the governor's wife and gets away and gives some cock and bull story to the king about, I was bringing you horses and then your governor stopped me. Shows up just in time to save his heroine's life. you know, I had to enjoy it, even though I don't kind of appreciate the kind of person Stukeley is. But he leads a charmed life, man.
That he does. Lois.
Yeah, it's a sort of romance episode, sort of stuck in the middle of this. And I think it was such standard stuff, really, that, I mean, if you remember The Night of the Burning Pestle, I think one of the adventures that the citizen and his wife want Rafe to have is to come to a castle where there'll be a princess named Pompiona who will be in love with him and will eventually ask if he will wear a lady's favor for her sake. I mean, it's that sort of thing. I don't say that it's directly imitating this. It's imitating lots of other scenes of that type or stories of that type. I think there is a ballad, which I don't really know. It begins, though, "Have you heard of a Spanish lady, how she loved an Englishman?"
And yes, we haven't as of yet done the Night of the Burning Pestle because you know, every time someone brings it up, I'm more and more inclined to just put it off for another few years. You know, because I mean that way, and also we haven't got there. It's still
I know.
Far.
The later we read it, the more allusions we'll find in it because we will have read all the stuff it's alluding to. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's like we'll never get the in jokes. Which we've made the mistake of jumping ahead sometimes with plays where we're going, yes, this is a reference to something you don't know about yet. Anyway, any other thoughts for the sort of the Spanish adventures? Eric, then Alan.
Well, it makes me think that he treats this governor's lady better than he treats his wife, because he's like, yeah, if he doesn't return, what does that matter, kind of thing. I mean, obviously life matters, but yeah, he kind of values her more than the wife he married in England.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that sense that you know, he's probably behaving to her in the way that he did to his wife initially. You know, it's the wooing part that it obviously interests him. The commitment side, less so. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that we don't know how he behaved with Nell before he actually managed to pick up a dowry. And basically, he's showing himself to be a grade A upper class shit throughout. And I must admit, given the dating, particularly with the reference that Helen's made to the Cadiz expedition, I mentioned earlier the potential link between the Irish adventure and Essex's misadventures in that part of the world. And I do wonder whether there is a subtext in here of, in some cases, for Stukeley read Essex.
Well, no.
Not in Ireland, no. It's too early.
And also, you know, in class terms, you're placing him slightly too far up the social strata. He's got some level of backing, but he's definitely not, you know, of the gentry level yet. You know, he's an adventurer making his way in the world. I mean, he's into money, but he's not that high up. Rachael. Which one?
She can go first. Go.
There was no waving. Rachael, you N can go first.
Okay.
We've got to come up with a system.
Okay. Well, like you can call me Raphael. It is the nickname that I've had for a long time.
Okay.
Anyway,
I will endeavour to remember that, and then forget.
All right. I was just gonna say there's something to this that's like I don't know. We've had other ones like this that it's like the Nibelungs. The Nibelungs are like the you know, like those other romances that it's this old fashioned. There's something old fashioned about it. Like he's like I think even for this period that he's like an old fashioned idea of what a man is, that he goes out and he conquers and he makes himself in, you know what I mean, like through war, through like pillaging. That's how he makes his wealth, as opposed to these other, I guess, nobility who just have inherited wealth. Maybe.
Lois.
Yeah, just saying that he doesn't really woo the governor's lady at all. I mean, she takes one look at him and thinks he looks terrific, and she's really wooing him. I mean, this happens in plenty of other plays too, just as another annoying example of something later. Julia in The Duchess of Malfi gets one look at Bossela and says, on the side, "What an excellent shape hath that fellow," and then proceeds to court him.
Yeah, there's basically a thwar moment, and a lot of it doesn't really come out of his dialogue at all. In fact, there's very little of that going on. But anyway, we are moving towards final thoughts, so time to go around the room. Sarah, do you have any final thoughts about the shape of the show so far? The show that we're creating in our minds at the moment.
Only that it's very entertaining. I'm really enjoying it. I think this would play pretty well with a contemporary audience, this play so far. I put in the chat earlier, I was being quite flippant. I put I'm getting strong Errol Flynn vibes. But I think you could actually play that up for a modern audience, actually. I think there are all kinds of I mean, Errol Flynn isn't obviously a contemporary reference, but he's a 20th century cultural reference. I think there are all sorts of 20th and 21st century cultural references. I'm thinking of sort of superhero films that you could tap into in a production of this play, because it seems to me to be a fairly knowing sort of play anyway. You've referred to the kind of the ironies that are going on in the text already, and I think you could possibly do something even more with those in a contemporary production. And I think this is really, really stageable. But I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the final third?
Yeah, it's a thing. You need to bring an Errol Flynn to him, because in many ways Stukeley doesn't do anything. I mean, apart from some extreme horse riding, broadly speaking, he just walks in. He's had a bit of a fight, and there's sort of abortive fights keep happening. And I'm not sure if it's just something that it's just a what a guy thing that he just needs to have, that doesn't necessarily always come from the action or the dialogue, because I'm not sure how much of it is actually there. And I'm quite interested about that now, to see how that all sort of hangs together or doesn't hang together. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yes, again, I think Sarah's really hitting the nail on the head. There's much about it that's very contemporary and very stage worthy. And I think Errol Flynn is because I'm old, I think Errol Flynn is a great analogy. The Jack Sparrow character in the pirate movies is like the closest I can come in recent pop culture history, but I'm sure there must be something out there. I mean, if you get the right guy who is just so attractive and charming and confident, confidence is sexy, and irresistible, I think it could be really fascinating. The one thing I have been thinking today in terms of actually staging this, producing it somehow, is, boy, it's long. It's really long. And some of the scenes go on for quite a long time. The shifts in kind of direction and in tone, I think, are manageable, but it's kind of like you've got 2 or 3 plays here. So that is something your editor is really going to have to work hard. Are you going to cut out whole chunks, or are you going to kind of try to take out parts more surgically so that you keep all the major movements? Because I think it's too long to stage in one sitting for a modern audience.
Yeah, it is a chunky text, and we're squeezing a lot into these 3 sessions. It's sort of a 3.5 if we did it on a more normal word count. And you're right, we've hit a couple of really massive scenes. We had a lot of short scenes, and then we hit scene 13, 14, and 15, and they're long, and they're just after where you'd put an interval. I mean, as well, you'd close the play after the Irish sequence. which actually means that we could drop scene 12 with the two Irish people dying as unnecessary, because we've got an interval between Stukeley exiting and Stukeley entering if we felt that that was necessary. So we've got structurally something we could drop there. But I think definitely those first three scenes in Spain are bit too long, though. Scene 15 probably moves really quickly because it's got that farcical quality to it, so that might not actually be as long as it perhaps feels like it is. But yeah, I felt today there was a lot more going, we could trim that, we could trim that. Do we really need that much backstory in for the setup of Alcazar? Can we find a way of getting that information across better? Is that actually a very good way of explicating business? Whereas the first session, I couldn't find anything. I went automatically, that can go, that feels too long. Didn't feel that yesterday. Lois, any final thoughts?
Well, I think continuing with the idea of what you could cut, I think you can't really tell till you get to the end of the play, because I imagine a lot of what look like interesting stories that start out in this play never actually get concluded. I mean, characters simply disappear and we don't find out anything more about them. And so those are the sorts of things one could get rid of, because they don't turn out to be relevant to the development of the thing. But we don't really know that yet. I mean, I'm wondering how much of Vernon and Harbert, for example, we're going to get in the next bit. Are they all going to turn up at Alcazar? Oh, good. But, I mean, if not, then we don't need to know as much about them earlier on either. And what is this theme about picking your teeth? I mean, Stukeley's father a dentist or something?
Maybe we'll never know. But yeah, we do definitely receive Vernon again. But you're right, absolutely. How much of those early characters? It felt like they managed to manage the disappearance of characters and the reappearing ones reasonably well into Ireland. So far, we haven't got any additional recurring characters yet, though we will see some of these people who we've just met more. But if it's a pre-interval, post-interval thing, then again, that may not feel like a problem. Whereas in an ongoing production without an interval, which is presumably how it's performed, that would be a different kettle of fish. Also, doubling question. I mean, I have to apologise. A lot of people didn't get much to read today because that's the sort of the way the play is structured, actually. But that might be a question of how it all doubles and flies about. Eric, any final thoughts?
Well, how do you call it? I don't know. There's a part of me going, this guy is really not someone you like, but then kind of really admirable in other ways. I don't know, just kind of. And as for the cutting stuff, I mean, I basically agree with it all the above. Just kind of, I guess you could play him as a sort of, not rakish character, but sort of, pompous at the beginning, and then just gets sort of a bit more pompous and like sort of Indiana Jones, but with less sort of, with more misogyny. Even more misogyny.
Yeah, I was going to say we can have the Indiana Jones map when he goes on his horse ride. I think that could be just going off in the background, and so we have this whole scene where they're explaining the back plot of Alcazar, and all you can see is this little line constantly getting closer and closer to them with a "You are here" marker. That might be a bit much, but hey, Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I must admit, I've not spotted any bits that one could do major surgery on. It is pretty economical in terms of the usage of words, but as you say, it's a hell of a long piece overall. I must admit, as far as the characters are concerned, I see Hernando as being the same generation as old Stukeley and Curtis, and the governor's wife as being the same generation as Nell. And that maybe she's a trophy wife, and she's obviously got the hots for Stukeley. And I can't get out of my head the image that Sarah posted yesterday of the alleged portrait of Stukeley. And basically she's going, "Oh, I'll have some of that."
Yes, if there are images of people who spend a lot on their wardrobe, and there's a lot of good evidence for as to why Stukeley spent quite so much money available out there. Elizabeth, any final thoughts? You're muted at the moment, so.
Yes, I totally agree with everything that's been said so far. I think that we're kind of inclined to kind of fix this play, because I heard different people say, "Oh, we'll cut this, and then we'll cut that, and then we'll cut the other," and I was thinking, yeah, but is it going to make it better? That's one of those things. It's kind of like, it's almost a goal towards modernizing the text, and in some ways, it's almost like an American English. Like some people always have a big problem with American English, and I quite like it. And I think that one of the major issues with the text is that it's kind of a sausage fest. We have a lot of men doing manly things, some being more or less reputable than others. And I feel like we have a real lack of women in this text. Maybe that's just today's section that we've covered. But even when Nell was there, she didn't seem to do that much. And I kind of feel like, because I feel like we've been spoiled with these beautiful ensemble pieces like The Insatiable Countess, that I was like, where are the girls? Where are the women? And I know this is a history play and it's about Stukeley and what he was up to. And so there's just no way to kind of shoehorn female characters in there. But I just feel as though we've gone into the realm of a history type, Turkishy type play, and we haven't got the kind of feminine energy to kind of balance out some of the masculinity. We've got a lot of toxic masculinity in it that's kind of making me not enjoy it as much as I did yesterday.
Yes, in terms of the question about length and cutting it, this is a play that's it's galloping towards 3 hours and more. Any play this long tends to get cut unless you're saying we start at 7 and there's a couple of intervals and see you tomorrow.
And no one can get home.
And no one can get home. So that's very much a pragmatic thing. Of course, if we did it on in a different medium, then it can be as long as it likes. And it's episodic enough to say that we could pretty much put it into three or four parts, and that they would sustain that if we were doing something along those lines. But if we were to do it uncut, I think we'd have to advertise it as one of those very long plays, and make sure the audience have decent lumbar support and or hemorrhoid preparation to survive the process, because some people struggle with long plays. Rachael, Raphael, that's the one. Let's go with Raphael.
All right. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Elizabeth's saying. I understand the time constraint for theater going, and there might be some in a full production there might need to be some cuts for that, just for what an audience is accustomed to in a modern play, what they expect. I think there is a lot of the channeling of not neoclassical stuff, but there is I from how we've been reading the age plays, there's some of that there's it seems to be like these heroes or these ideals at one point that are coming up with this guy, or not necessarily ideals from the age plays, but this idea of a hero that's maybe not matching up with what our idea now is of a hero. But yeah, mostly I really agree with that. This is a sausage fest, and for that the Ludgate, whatever they were yesterday, even from him, that guy who was probably an incel, we got more women from him.
Yes. Yes, well, he was a monk. Briony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've been a little bit distracted today. I'm not going to lie. I have an opening night tonight, so my head's all over the shop. So I might not be giving it a fully fair run, but I so agreed when Elizabeth said it was a sausage fest. It was a bit too much boy stuff and war today. It kind of lost me a bit. I didn't feel as engaged as I was yesterday. There were still moments of the fun of yesterday and the silliness, and I really loved the relationship with Vernon, like the rivalry and the hatred and the trying to get away from each other and always ending up in the same place. That could be played for a lot of fun. And yeah, it has been very lacking in women. Bess was all right yesterday. She had a bit more to say than now, but they've not really developed any of these female characters much. They're plot devices more than actual interesting characters that I want to know and play.
Yeah, I want Vernon. Actually, we should insert him into the court. He should just be, just wander in and just go, "Oh, for God's sake," and just walk out again. I think he's just constantly wandering on. He's just got the job as Provost, and it's just going, "Oh no, not you again." Rachael, any final thoughts?
I mean, I don't mind the sort of the war focus and all the men, and I, given that that's sort of what this is really, and I thought the governor's wife was, as female roles can go in plays of this period, not a bad role, but a lot of that may have been Lois's performance, which I hugely enjoyed. It feels it feels unwieldy in comparison to yesterday. Robert used a good word, I thought, when you referred to it as being episodic. I feel I've slightly lost track of what the narrative through line is really. And in retrospect, the scene in which they sort of tie up the Irish politics looks even more odd now that we're nowhere and that isn't sort of relevant anymore. So I'm finding it a little unwieldy now. But yeah, that you can see how it could all be very enjoyably and often quite entertainingly staged. There's lots in it that I'm enjoying.
Excellent. And Helen, I think, any final thoughts?
Well, I wasn't here yesterday, but I did do my reading up. I think if you take this play at its own level, that it's great. I mean, I like it. I'm finding it a lot easier than the Battle of Alcazar, where I got so lost in the politics, whereas this seems to be much more straightforward. Everybody is as devious as hell. And that I can do. Mm-hmm. I think this is good. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Yes, I think most of the reservations that we've flagged up are the sort of practical ones that you go into a production to just quietly iron out and be aware that you get about halfway through, and the production needs to really be on its A game to get us through some of those longer scenes to make sure that the play continues to fly. But overall, it seems to be holding together. Reasonably well, and I'm still enjoying it. And now all I'm hoping for is that tomorrow the curse of the third session will not land, and the whole thing turns into a terrible mess, and we're all disappointed, and we all go home crying. So on that note, all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Bye. Go pick your teeth.